Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Monday morning, it's still, and it's going to be a most magnificent Sydney summer's day. Check out this reflection of Sydney's beautiful CBD on the waters here at Darling Harbour. Just so peaceful, just so glorious, absolutely magnificent. What I'd like to do today before I start work, and I start work in half an hour, is to deliver yet another book summary. And today's book summary is entitled 4,000 Weeks, and it's written by an author named Oliver Burkeman. And this book is all about comparing and contrasting the lessons that we learn in terms of time management to the lessons that we learn in terms of how to live one's life and be fulfilled, happy and content. And in a nutshell, what this author is basically telling us is that all that we've learnt in terms of productivity, all that we've learnt in terms of time management doesn't really work all that well, because what it does do is that it increases our stress levels and it transports us from the present to the future, and we don't get to live our lives in a way that is going to make you feel happy and satisfied, I guess is what is being said in a nutshell. So what the author here is trying to suggest to us and get the message that they're trying to get across is that the real problem isn't our limited time, but it's the things that we've inherited, the thought process we've inherited that make us feel pressured in terms of how we live and how we use our time. It's important to understand that we've all got the same allocation of time on a daily basis in our lives. Each day is 24 hours, but how we live those 24 hours, what we do within those 24 hours is different for each person. For each person will live a completely different life, a unique and completely different life. Even if you're an identical twin, you're going to experience a different past. You're going to gather and build on different experiences that you capture throughout your days. And even if you're having the same sort of experience in general, you're going to interpret that experience very, very differently from the others around you, depending on what your values are, what your thought processes are, and how you perceive things, and how you see life, what your worldview is. So your past is going to be completely different from anybody else's past, and you're going to experience a different now. You're going to experience a different here and now. I am here, you're somewhere else. You could be in a different time zone. You could be in a different time and space to where I am at the moment. So you're going to experience things very, very differently to how I experience this particular moment in time. And you're going to put different meanings on this slither of your reality to the slither of reality that I have. And one thing for sure and for certain is that we're all going to have very, very different futures. We're all going to have a different destiny. We're all going to end up in a different place to our parents, our grandparents, and everybody else. But hopefully the ultimate goal is for us to meet up and to end up in the same place, in heaven, and being one with God. That's the Christian goal, that's the Christian ideal. So the author goes on to say that a lot of the time management techniques that we learn and are encouraged to use and that are a sprute will guarantee not to make things better, but to actually make things worse in our lives. Because what happens with time management principles is that we tend to spend far too much time planning for the future and not enough time doing and living the present. We spend far too much time leaning into our futures, planning, preparing, organising, manipulating, trying to get this done, trying to get that done. But we don't spend enough time just enjoying being, just enjoying our families, just enjoying our work. One of the benefits that I have enjoyed over the past few years is that I've moved into the construction industry and I no longer work as an accountant in corporate Australia. And one of the beauties of working in construction is that you take each day as it comes. You take it a day at a time. There are no emails, there is no pressure, there are no meetings, there are no things you need to prepare for significantly. You just get to enjoy your day, your moment, and you've got a lot of thinking time as well. There are a lot of hours throughout the day where I can just think, I can just enjoy the moment. I can daydream, I can be here and not have to be somewhere else, leaning into the future, worrying about the future. So we are often ripped out of the present and spend all of our energy and thinking and living with anxiety, worrying too much about the future, which may never come. Because most of the things that we think about, most of the things we plan for, most of the worries that we have, most of the problems that we're contemplating will never ever happen, will never materialize. That is a very, very powerful point. And yet we spend an inordinate amount of time worrying, planning how to get through, over, under these figments of our imagination, these problems that other people have posed, other people have said or thought will happen. Now we can't live our lives with other people's anxiety. Just because your boss, just because your teammate, your parent, uncle, aunt, other people in our lives, our leaders, just because they are worried about the future, doesn't mean that we need to be overly concerned about things that we don't have any control over. So the big message from this book, from this author, is to not spend an inordinate amount of time in your past or your future. Spend most of your time, wherever you can, in the present, enjoying the present moment is a key message. Because at the end of the day, what is past is gone. It can't come back. And what is the future may never appear, may never materialize. But what we do have is the here and now. Just like we've got all these gulls over here carrying on, we've got this to enjoy at this particular point in time. And we've got these views and this serenity, this peace, this stillness to enjoy, rather than have your mind ruminating over all the things that possibly could go wrong today. Because at the end of the day, as we said, the future never works out the way we plan. And what we're doing is we're robbing ourselves of peace of mind, and we never get to experience a thing called deep time, where you can just spend time, descend into time, and think about your life and enjoy your moment, your family, your friends, your hobbies, and all of the things that bring you joy. So a powerful message from this author. So what the author is suggesting here is that we need to unplug ourselves and spend most of our time doing the things that bring us meaning, that bring us purpose, and to bring us satisfaction as well. As long as those things, of course, are the things that are worthy of doing, the things that allow us to serve God with all our heart, mind and soul, allow us to serve one another, to love one another as we love ourselves, and to basically add value rather than take value away from our world and our environment. So the call to action, once again, from this author is to say no to everything else, to say no to all those things that don't give us purpose, to say no, learn how to say no, an emphatic no, rather than to be a slave to all of those things which are a waste of our valuable time. Because one thing for sure and for certain, and we'll all learn this throughout our lives, the more productive one gets, the more work will get shunted in your direction. The more capable you become, the more problems people will foist upon you. So it's a never-ending race with a never-ending finish line for those who are not wise enough to see or hear or know it. But this author, in his wisdom, reminds us that we can step back and we can make choices, and those choices can improve our lives. Because what happens if you're not careful, and it's happened to all of us at some point in time, is you become addicted, you become a junkie to dopamine, you become a junkie to getting things done, and not only do you become a junkie, but you also become a pusher to family, friends, work peers, and you push them past their limits to get things done. And what happens in the meantime is that we all are losers. We all lose our lives, we all lose our present, and then we become less and less satisfied and fulfilled because we're spending far too much time living mentally in our futures, even though physically and spiritually we're in our present. What the author here is saying is that mentally we're being torn and moved into the future, a future which will never come. It'll never come for you, it'll never come for me, just like it never came for our parents, our friends, our families, and all of the other good people that came before us. But what it does do is it creates a life of anxiety. Not only a life of anxiety, but a life of constant, never-ending anxiety, which is draining. It's draining physically, mentally, spiritually, socially. You become draining of others, and others become draining of us. Because if we systematically postpone our life, we'll get to a point where we look back and it will backfire. We will realise, we will learn that we should have slowed down and we should have let the moment be, just like this moment is being now. Let it be, just like the Beatles would sing in the old days, in the 70s, that wonderful song, Let It Be. just like the Virgin Mary at the Annunciation said to the Archangel Gabriel, "Let it be." We too should also utter those words, "Let it be." Let the moment be and slow down. Because even the finest meal, this is such a profound point, even the finest meal in the finest restaurant may as well be a cup of 1-minute noodles if your mind is somewhere else, if your mind is in your phone, if your mind is worrying about tomorrow, the next day, the next week, the next year. By all means, spend moments worrying about the future, planning the future, but spend most of your time, according to this author, in the here and now. Spend time with family, spend time with friends, spend time, quality time with God, and spend time admiring, enjoying nature, admiring, enjoying creation, because everything was created for our ultimate enjoyment. For God so much loved the world, so much loved his people, that he wanted them to enjoy all that he had created. And to once again be warned that work will always expand to fill the time available. For there is no completion. And even though we have more technology today than we have ever had before, we've got more robots, we've got more computing power to do the calculations, to do the manipulations, to do all of those things that technology promises and delivers. The big lesson, I guess, for each and every one of us is that we actually have less time to enjoy ourselves. Because what happens, and I've learned this as well, having spent 35 years in the IT&T industry here in Australia, that the more technology you have, the more expectations business has, the more expectations your boss has, the more expectations shareholders have in terms of what you should be doing with that technology and what you should be doing with the time. And all of that leads to pressure, all of that leads to anxiety, all of that leads to discomfort, and all of that leads to a life unfulfilled, a life where we're running on the treadmill, that never stops. There's never a pause button, and we just feel exhausted all the time and unfulfilled and unhappy. So I guess that's the end. Thank you very much for joining me on this wonderful Monday, and I'm back here, as I said before, at Darling Harbour, working on this building here, the Ribbon, a magnificent project which has had a checkered past with a number of builders going broke, building it, delivering it, but hopefully we'll be able to finish it this time round and deliver a monument down here to this precinct, to this Darling Harbour precinct, which is constantly being refreshed, rejuvenated, so much so that this old Darling Harbour area is going to be redeveloped by Mirvac over the next 2 or 3 years, and once again making this the hub of this wonderful world-class city that we live in. I look forward to coming to you again from a different place, with a different message of empowerment, where we can live, learn and pass it on, where we can take OPE, other people's experiences, other people's wisdom, other people's learnings, and attach it to the things that we have learned. Because what we understand is that learning is a simple process of attaching the unknown to the known. And through Jim's 5am Club, through the journey that we take on a daily basis, I promise to dedicate this moment of the day for us all to learn something new and to live with abundance and make the most of each and every opportunity. Yasas, take care, and bye for now.